And even so, the beach quiet is no cause a macquado them. Today, we are going to be blessed with the fire, the spirit of the fire. And the medicines that will burn are gifted for Earth Woman, Sage, and for the continuance of life of Earth Woman and all that she holds, the gifts that she holds from Creator's basket. We are her helpers. I have included cedar, for it is one of the medicines that kept all living things and still works to create medicines, home, and other gifts for the four-legged, the two-legged, the birds, the crawlers, receives the rain and releases it again. If we were to harvest a cedar when we need to, for ceremony or for other reasons, the center of that cedar tree is purple. Beautiful color. But what that purple represents in the center of that medicine tree is balance. And that is what we're asking for today in honoring the sage and the cedar. Balance for Earth Woman. And to help us as the helpers, Skabe was, Skabe was. That is male and female helpers. That is us, two-legged. Monday, Earth Woman and Sky Man worked very hard to prepare this sacred day for us in advance. So Monday, both ends of the universe were working hard in happiness because they knew that we were getting ready to do our part, share with one another all of the gifts and acknowledge her and the sky world in that good way. There was thunder, there was lightning, the connection between the sky world and Earth Woman. And in reverse, after that fire was gifted to the earth and the universe, the gift of life, the greatest medicine, was water. And it fell from the sky world. Again, the connection between Earth Woman and sky world. And it is written in the sky world, the 7 grandfather and 7 grandmother teachings. It is held in the Big Dipper. There's 7 stars that sit there to make that gift. Now we talk about the transference of knowledge. This is not new. It has been forever. It is written also in the sky world, and it is left in the markings of the Little Dipper. And when I think about that formation, the forever, that's the children, how sacred they are. I can see them, I can hear them. And here, and I live out on Georgian Bay in Shawanaga, off reserve. It is not about a boundary line for me. It is about the gift of a lifeline. And every day I hear those sacred gifts. This morning, there was so much happiness. At the very, very daybreak, the loons were calling and singing because they were calling all of the other living things, the flyers, the walkers, and the water beings. They knew that another celebration was coming. That is a gift for your spirit for today, and the words that you are going to share with one another, that kindness, that love. And the helper later in the morning was this little bird, and I do not know what the name of that little bird is. But when I was small, my auntie, my mother's mother, sister, she is the one that taught us to sing. She would take us outside or sit outside because we utilized the outside as part of our living space. Those little birds would sing. And she taught us so well that during the winter time, when we got lonely, we always thought that going to the summer place, it was always summer over there. We never understood why we came to the mainland in the winter if it was always summer and beautiful there. I believed that until I was about 4 or 5 years old. But I would lay in bed longing for all my island friends, my little critter cages, and all the other things that would be there. And I would begin to lay there and sing those songs that the birds sang. So one day my mother heard me and she came upstairs and all concerned because she really thought that one of these little birds was in the house. That's how well Auntie taught us to sing. So utilizing that wee voice, that is who is welcoming you today. The singers, the ones that know all of those words. They never changed their language. They never changed their way of life. They use so very little on this earth. They make fresh beds every year for their babies. And it must be as heartbreaking for them as it is for us when they lose one of those children, either for natural causes or they become a food chain for somebody else. They cry. And in relation to that cry, it is something that Earth Woman must be doing now. For we are causing her to lose a bit of life. But I know from the gifts of that first day, Monday, through the storm, all of what was speaking was truly a gift for yesterday, and it is for today, because we carry those little bird songs. We admire those little fish, and we admire the beautiful four-leggeds, all of them. And most importantly, we've been given the spirit to honor ourselves, recognize that we are as sacred, not better, but equally sacred as the rest of the universe. And we rely on it to put its mark in a good way. I honor the water, and I feed it to its relative, the fire. I ask that we acknowledge the men today as we conduct ourselves in meeting in the circle. They allow us to use these technologies And they give us ethical space to do that. And that is going through the sky world, transmitting our energy through the sky world. So we have good governance from the above of the fire and below of Earth Woman, the water and the medicines, and a place for us to put our feet. We are meant to do good work, not to hurt each other with anything today, and leave only a footprint of happiness and hope, just as they have given us. And so on this journey, I wish everyone a happy day. I'm excited again to listen. And it's like I've traveled all of Ontario and her boundaries. But there is no boundaries for responsibility about what lives outside of Ontario. Miigwech. Enjoy your blessed day.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much, Elder Capreol, for leading us again in an opening prayer. We really appreciate your attention and care of this meeting and helping us open in a good way and close in a good way each day. So thank you so much for spending your time with us and offering your gifts to us. And this morning, I'm going to get out of the way as quickly as possible because I really want to hear from our next two guests. We have Marilyn Marchand and Jean Lemire with us, and both of their biographies are on the website, so please check that out at peoplesummit.ca. You can also see the full agenda for the day so you don't miss anything that you might want to catch. And of course, we're on again tomorrow with another full suite, and we will have all of these sessions recorded, so if you do want to listen to them again or send them to your friends, etc., they'll be on the website by next week. I will just make a brief introduction to Marilyn and Jean Lemire. And for me, I've been a troublemaker on the environment for quite some time, and Marilyn Marchand has been a partner in crime, let's say. And so I'm really, really pleased to have her as part of this conversation. We've worked together for many years, and she is doing some amazing work as she's moving forward on the IUCN targets on nature. And we are, I have been very excited about welcoming Jean Lemire. He has been compared to one of my childhood heroes, Jacques Cousteau, this guy who really opens up the world for the rest of the country. And so I'm very excited to hear from both of them in conversation this morning. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask those. We will try to get to all your questions. The ones that we don't, we will make sure that we provide answers after the summit. So please, Marilyn, take it away.
Oh, thank you, Janet, so much for this kind introduction. And I want to add some of the, just a little welcoming from the language of the land where I live and play here in Banff. So, okay, Tanzi, Abawastish, Tamidada, bonjour, welcome. Those are the vibration of the land where I live. And that's really important to remember that while I'm not in Ontario, I'm in Banff National Park. It's the home also of the Quebec, the Tenaha, the Cree, the Stoney Nakoda, the Yari Nakoda, the Blackfoot Confederacy with the Kainai, the Piikani, and the Siksika. And this place has vibration as all the places in the land that we are. And I wanted to have those, sending those greetings to Elder Capreol that she did. So Janet, I'm excited. Let's get on this conversation. An eye opener, 7 a.m. for me, 9 a.m. for you, and let's get it. I mean, this is so exciting. The state of the play of conservation is really moving fast. As you've seen yesterday, you had great panels. A lot of the people are new. And we just want to bring you a little bit into the world of Jean Lemire. Jean Lemire is an educator, biologist by training, but he's also an award-winning filmmaker, if you haven't seen it, and stands in the back of him all of his beautiful trophy for all the guys. But he's also somewhere in his career, I want to start there, he moved to work as a special envoy for climate change, Northern and Arctic Affairs for the Quebec government. And that's really interesting to make that shift. And Jean, if I can start right away, how did you do? And what is the role of an envoy on climate change, Northern and the Arctic? And we know that, I mean, if you grew up in Quebec and you had any blood in your vein that's about exploring, you knew about Jean's boat on the Senna going up all across the oceans. And so I want to bring you all into this world, this magnificent world of Jean Lemire. Jean, can you get us started to first, what is your role and how did you get there to work for the government for nature conservation and climate?
Well, thank you, Marie-Eve. Thank you, Janet. Good morning, everybody. It's a huge question, actually, because I'm a scientist, like you said, and when I was young, I was working a lot with whales. And so I was traveling the world, studying whales. I was in charge of the research for a university in Hawaii. And I had the difficult job of going underwater, filming the mating behavior of humpbacks. And I know it was a difficult job, but somebody had to do it. So I was there. And then it was great. I was publishing scientific papers, and few hundreds people around the world were able to read that. So I wanted to share more, to create a link with the public, because when you are always in nature, you see the importance of nature. So I turned bad, and I started to make films and write books about climate change and biodiversity. We bought a boat, a crazy thing to do, 165 feet, three-masted sailboat. And we did the Northwest Passage in 2002. At that time, it was crazy. We became the 7th boat of the history to be able to do the Northwest Passage in only one season. And because it was very difficult, it was full of ice, and it completely changed since 2002. So I started to do things, and then I overwintered in Antarctica for 430 days with my crew. That was crazy, of course. And we were able to feel and to live the climate change, So I came back after that, started to write books, and then I wanted to switch to biodiversity, because this is probably the best, if you want to see the relation between humans and nature, look at biodiversity. If it's going wrong, there's something wrong on what we are doing. So I did a 3 years project called 1000 Days for the Planet. We went around the world to document that relationship between human and biodiversity. And what I saw, Marie-Eve, was just difficult to keep for me. It was, the relationship, the way that we use our nature is, not sustainable. So I wanted to do more. And then the government of Quebec offered me that job of, envoy for climate change and Nordic and Arctic affairs. And at first I said, are they crazy? I'm always talking against government, so why are they all offering me that job? So I hesitated a lot and realized the privilege of being near people who could make the difference. So I said, okay, I will start that. And to be honest, I'm really happy with the influence that I can bring now. One example, I worked a lot with Anticosti Island files, and all the things that were happening there. You can do 3, 4, 5 films about it, and you will reach a public that already are on your side, I should say. But just a nice dinner with the Prime Minister trying to explain, the importance of that, and click, you have a decision. So that's, the kind of role of influence that my job can bring. And to be honest, I'm not winning all the time, but it's important for me to bring science around the table of decisions. So that's what I do. Normally, I'm traveling a lot, but since a year and a half, I'm pretty much inside my little farm here in the Eastern Township.
which is really to see if I pick up on traveling. Yeah, we had more breakfast in Kenya and other places. That's how we kind of started the relationship than really in our places here in Canada. And all of this is really interesting. I want to bring more that breaking the silos. And you see, like your title is about climate change, but really biodiversity comes in, and really it's policy and it's people too. And all this comes together. And to move into a nature positive action, because we need to change, not only the conservation needs to be at scales, but we need to change from the land, from agriculture production. We need to change our whole relations, not just the part that we'll put into protection. So can you kind of tell me a little bit more and talk about like breaking those silos? How do we bring the economy, but also agriculture into the idea of nature positive action for biodiversity and climate change? I know those two are totally interlinked. We started to talk about it, but let's kind of dig a little bit.
Well, it's interesting because like you saw, I did lots of communication in my life, and I was, of course, in Paris when we signed the Paris Agreement, and for us it was what a great day, because we worked for decades trying to bring that subject to an international level. And then I started to realize that we were not gaining so much, because it was like we signed it, and then people just sat down, and so we had to change the way that we were dealing with the environmental questions. And so we started to include the nature into it. And in communication, it's very important to go with things that people like. You cannot don't like nature. I mean, it's part of who we are, and it's more than a place where we go for a weekend to relax. Nature is part of what we are. So we started to include everything together, like climate change, biodiversity, public health. This is very important. If you can do enough education so people will understand the link between environment and public health, then you will add more and more people to your cause. And this is what we did. Same thing with food. More and more people want to buy local food, go organic, and then they start to do sport. And so it's if you break those silos between climate change, biodiversity, agriculture, and you present it like just a new way of living, and at the end, your life will be better. That's simple, but some people will do it because they want to have a better health. Some people wants to be part of that because they want to save biodiversity. But they're all working for environment, because we were able to break those silos. And this is, for me, very, very important. And more we will be able to make those links through education, of course, we will gain a lot. And when you think about, the involvement, like, for example, we spend lots of time in school. When we were doing our expedition, we were doing from 7 to 10 direct link by satellite with schools. Well, of course, they're going to be putting lots of pressure, like we saw in climate change, for example, on governments and all that. And then you will start to change the way of thinking. The environment will become a transversal team, and they will have to change the way that they think the economy of your country. Because this, of course, in some ministers, they want to bring economy, they want to create jobs, but again, if you bring science around the table, if you are there to bring science, then they will start to think differently. And this is very, very important. And if we think about the north of Quebec, for example, the entire relationship that we have with the north is completely different. Now we have to include people who live there, indigenous, and we have so much to learn from them, You know, I spent all my life in the Arctic doing films, and I started as a biologist, you know, when I was very young, and everything I've learned came from the Inuit, came from the people living there, you know, and it's amazing, you know. I don't understand why we should not listen more to them, because they are on the field, they are there, you know, and they have that that spirit, that relationship with nature that can help us. So we now have to think differently and make a different way of making the decisions. We have to work together, and if we break silos, that will bring more people, and you know, we will be able to go faster and change things, you know, for better.
That's really interesting. One of the elder I'm working a lot with is like, we need to stop thinking about outside the box. We need to start thinking inside the circle.
Yeah.
It's really like, it's our frame of mind as a Western. We always think what's outside that we haven't thought, but actually what we need to think is that we're all part of that circle of life, and that's part of circular economy. That's what you're thinking. And then if you're in a circle, then there's no more silos. And so we need to switch our brain that we don't think outside the box, we think in the circle. And I was like, one of the elder, we talk about it a lot, and it's just like, what a little simple way of reframing or having our brain of looking at solutions. The solution are not outside or inside if you're connected. And while you talk a lot about education in Quebec, you also play a really special role. And you were in Aichi in 2010 in the Convention on Biodiversity negotiation. You were part of that meeting. And now you're also co-leading for the subnational level of all the subnational at the Convention on Biological Diversity, the next strategic plan negotiation that hopefully will be incoming. So I want to bring us to that, moving from breaking those silos to breaking even the bigger silo of UN Convention. You were in Paris, you're doing the cycle again. Can we move up in that role? What the role is, and how do we move to China? And maybe what a place like Ontario, a province like Quebec, could start playing in those negotiations?
Well, that's a very good question. First of all, if I go back in 2010 in Aichi, and you know, we were so happy, you know, we had a plan for 10 years, you know, that was great. And we finally, you know, got together, and oh my God, we were happy. Well, 10 years after, we failed, you know, completely. You know, there's no country who was able to meet the, you know, Aichi biodiversity targets. And we lost 10 years, you know. So now we have to go faster, and we have to understand why we didn't succeed. And one of the reasons is probably because it was made between parties, between countries. And, you know, if you look in Canada, for example, who's responsible to apply those rules? It's the provinces, you know. So we worked really, really hard to have a new approach based on a all government's approach now. And this is why Ontario should come right now, because all the hard work is done, you know. So be part of it, you know, because it's amazing the influence that we have right now. First of all, we have an official voice around the table of negotiation, things that we didn't have in Aichi in 2010. We are now talking for subnational and local governments. So this is very, very important. This is something completely new, and that will influence the different parties. So now we have a voice. And to be honest, Marie-Ève, we cannot do nothing. I mean, it's, you know, it's the science is saying that if we keep the same way that we are doing right now, we will lose that battle. So how can we do nothing? I mean, it's just not possible. We have to do something, even if it's difficult. Even if there's some countries sometimes that are not really, you know, in the same pace that we are. And look at the influence that we can have if we have an all government approach. I will give you one example, but don't, you know, it's just between you and me. You know, don't say it to others. But in our right now it's pretty difficult to do the negotiation, to be honest, at 190 countries, virtual, where normally it's face to face in corridors that we can move things. We know, for example, that Brazil is kind of not very hot to the idea of having a new framework that will be ambitious and all that. What can we do? Well, we work with Sao Paulo. I mean, and then they will move with us, and then they will make influence on their federal government, but they will also bring other subnationals with them. And then, from down to top, we can build, momentum. And this is how we can play a real influence on the, global framework to come. So this is very, very exciting. And now that we have a real voice, let's, welcome Ontario with us.
That's really interesting, Jean, because we see it as we work. California has played a big role in the subnational, as Quebec does. And if you look at the policy of the G7 that came out of moving and the high ambition coalition to protect at least 30% of the land and sea by 2030, and you move to, Evan, I was looking at the green list, which is the highest certification for protected areas. The two places who are moving faster are Quebec and California, and then both countries adopted, but there's a very place for, that's what you're saying, like with the Edinburgh Declaration, there's a place like Scotland is playing a different role in UK too in leading, and as Quebec and as California. And wouldn't it be fun to have Ontario on the table? I mean, wouldn't it be fun that Ontario doesn't have to wait to see what the federal, but can be part of those negotiations and add their part and the specialty of the lands and be like, that's a little bit of what we wanted. And the last little while that we have, I want to move to, that's really like, that's a place that at the international level, provinces, and that's what Jean's saying, they're welcome. There's a place for them. But how do we go? I'll go back like in my circular thinking is breaking those silos of climate and nature. While you've been really engaged internationally, you've been also working with the province. If people doesn't know and they didn't read, Jean is not from the Minister of the Environment, he's from the International Affairs and Francophonie. And he's leading the charge on conservation and climate. And that's maybe not your usual suspect that you go to if you're the general public or you're the NGO world. You don't normally go knock at the door of the international affairs to say, hey, help me in province and international. But you've been playing a key role, and you've also that approach of all governments. You've kind of tried to move it down to scale to the province. So can you bring us a little bit of what you've been doing in that last year to bring those intertwined crises of climate change and biodiversity, plus the people and the health crisis, which are linked together? And what have you been doing in those kind of bringing all departments of the governments together and kind of listening? Because this is not something that it's on the shoulder of one minister. We have to stop like that to think about any one of us working in the field. It is, I mean, in Quebec, the environmental ministry has to spend the whole year budget is 1 day of the healthcare minister. So it's 1 day. In the whole year, they have as much money as what the Ministry of Health has in 1 day. So we need to bring everyone. So what have you been doing? Because I know you've been thinking a lot about it and how to apply it to the province. And that might be some cue and lesson learned that could be really interesting for Ontario. Can you kind of bring us to that?
Yeah, that was, I think it was the best move we did probably, because what we decided to do is we said, okay, we are around the table of negotiation. We will have a new framework, and that will apply to all ministers. So we will be the link between international and you, and we will bring you the mood and what is going well, what is not going so well, so you will know where we are going. So they really appreciate it. So we started an interministerial tour to explain what was going on during the negotiation, and we listened to them. And for example, if you go with the people in charge of mining, what is the problem with conservation and mining? Tell me that. So I will be able to put that in a balance and try to find the best way of bring science into it. So we work together, and this was probably the best move, because now there's a real dialogue. So they will not be surprised by the result of those of what we will bring from Kunming, because they will be able to follow where we are going. That's why our Minister of Environment said that, we will respect and follow the new rules that will be adopted in Kunming. So that's just that. It's great, But of course, my role is to work with every minister, and see how we can be sure that it's going to be followed by every minister. I'm not against economy. We have to find the right way to put the right decision together. And the old ways of thinking is not the way that we have to think now. So how do we include science, conservation, traditional knowledge, all that together, so we will, at the end, respect what science is saying, and how we will, in final, have a better world. This is, this is a thing that we should not forget, Marie-Ève. We are in an historical time, and we are the one that can change things. Ontario, for example, you are right in the middle of, probably the most important part of Canada in terms of climate change. You have to be around the table. You have to be part of the decision. It's you have to be actors of change. We cannot do nothing. We have to be part of solution. And again, we have to work all together. There's no place to say, well, we don't want any companies. No, we have to sit down together and find solution. And the final answer of what we will do is science.
Yeah, science and Indigenous science and Western science coming together, as most of the time we see, because at the end, when we think about living together and we're all part of the planet, actually we respect that we are all one amongst many. The beginning of biology is the respect of the beginning of also Indigenous knowledge, that we are one amongst many and we're not apart. And that's really interesting, because I know that it's not an approach that's been done in many provinces, to start working with transportation and mining and like para-government institutions and looking at all the others, and let them know in advance, let them think through how can they participate in changing the world for better, because we are facing a crisis. And I really applaud the Quebec government and your leadership on that, because it's quite a different approach. And before we go for questions, because I think we have still a few minutes and maybe there's question, I cannot applaud more the Quebec government, and we wanted this morning as an eye-opener to all of you in Ontario too, to say, come, join the party, come to negotiate, be at the table, but also bring your voice. This change, Jean really made it. It's already 10 years later. It's already 10 years too late. So there's no places to be shy anymore. There's no places to say maybe we can wait another 20 for the life of the peatlands and the carbon there. We need to avoid emitting more. We need to protect being in the ocean and in the land. And I think that's the time that we all get together and say, this is what needs to be changed, and not be scared of it. And it's not on someone's responsibility, it's on all of us. And I think that's really the key message, is all of us here asked to take part. But Ontario, come join the party at the international level, because it will really help. Like, you will know and you'll be part of the negotiation, and there's still time. So Janet, do you want to bring us to some questions for the last 5 minutes?
Yeah, I have. Thank you so much, both of you. Such an exciting conversation. And I couldn't agree more that this is a unique approach being taken by Quebec. And thank you, Jean, for your leadership in this. I think that every province could look to this, because you're right. We don't get to solutions on nature unless we bring everybody. Like you can't have resistors. We're not going to get to the right solutions otherwise. And it is in everybody's interest. And I find this really, this piece about subnationals quite an intriguing idea. And in case you haven't looked at the agenda, we have a number of people who are from cities and towns who are trying to move things forward. And many of them are responding to a growing heartfelt need to see protection in their communities. And so like you worked with Sao Paulo to help Brazil, is there a way to start working with some of these subnational places like the city of Toronto, like the city of Windsor, Kingston, etc., who want to see protection in their backyard?
Well, we have a great relationship with ICLEI, for example. You know, we always prepare things together. We work together for the Edinburgh process and declaration. More than 400 signed, you know, that declaration. So that means that we work together already, and we work really well. You know, we are always preparing our intervention with cities. So we have to be again to work together. And cities are, you know, the same example that I took from Sao Paulo. You know, if we have big cities, of course, you know, that will put enough pressure on the government, and we will be all part of the solution. So we already work with cities, and you know, Toronto and all the other you know, cities has to be part of that. And just go on the you know, Scotland website and sign the Edinburgh Declaration. You know, that's a good start. And again, you know, join us. You know, with ICLEI, you know, we cover, you know, most of the big cities around the world, and they are really, really, you know, active on the international. So you know, be part of it. Be part of it.
And as we change flags, and the Toronto put the ABS flag lately for the hockey, Montreal is a great leader in the ICLEI. And we have, like, I mean, Canada is in that special place that we have a lot of leading in the ICLEI, which is the International City Association. Montreal is leading it. In the subnational, you have Quebec. Like, come on, Canada can play a big role. We can learn. We don't even have to go somewhere else to ask. Like, we're just like a few hundred kilometers outside, and we could join team, and that would make a difference. And Janet, you can say it better. Cities are so important. The cities and farm has to play a big role in biodiversity, as is the northern and the wild area, as is the shared landscape where most of the people live in the region, being the Ottawa Valley or going down in the Sudbury area. Everyone has to take action wherever you live. It's not about someone does or the others. Actions are needed everywhere, and together we'll make a difference.
Yes.
By the way, Valérie Plante is the world ambassador for biodiversity, so it's very, very easy to, you know, to join, you know, that big reunion of cities involved in biodiversity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we need to get the Great Lakes St. Lawrence mayors involved in this. They would be a really good group of people to start engaging and having them be part of this. It's like cities who have promised or pledged to do carbon neutrality. You really should, even if you're just thinking in a climate frame, you should be thinking about biodiversity as your best guard or shield against climate change. So it would be nice to see the same cities who are taking action on climate change doubling down and saying we're going to have a climate neutral or a carbon neutral world and a nature positive world, and try to get to that outcome.
Yeah, we could get those bridges. It's right here right next door.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have any other questions?
No, I'm actually going to let you and Jean conclude and move us forward to our next session after that.
Marie-Ève, do you want to start?
I was going to say the same for you, but I just want to say that, you know, this morning was a little bit of bringing a little bit of the flavor of what we're doing next door, because it's amazing breaking the silos. We do have silos within our provinces. And for a long time, the country of Canada moves better when Quebec and Ontario moves together too. Yeah. And this is how it goes. And we share ecosystem, we share nation, the Anishinaabe, Algonquin people. We are in one shared landscape together, and we need to start seeing it like that. So that was a little bit like what thank you to the People Summit to say, hey, we can also not only break the silos of climate and health and nature biodiversity, but let's join forces, because actually we could make a difference at the world stage. by working together. So this is the invitation on this morning.
Yes.
Absolutely. And just think of, you know, where we are right now. You know, it's an historical time. It's a new paradigm, and we want to be part of that. You know, it's a crucial time, and we cannot just sit down and look, you know, to what is happening. We have to be involved. We have to put aside, you know, the political game and all that, and just think of, you know, our relationship with nature, our relationship with, indigenous. Bring more respect around the table and bring more science. And I think that, you know, the more we will be, the more chance we have of success. And again, you are actors of change in your business, in your family, in your government, and it's time to act now. You know, we cannot wait any longer, and we cannot have another fail like we did in 2010 in Aichi. I mean, we won't be able to survive on another fail. So please join us. And to be honest, it's fun. So so let's be part of it. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Jean and Marie-Ève. It has been a true pleasure listening to both of you. And thank you for making it accessible to me by speaking in English, because my French is terrible. So I really want to thank you for that. And I think another solid message that I heard from you, Jean, is that science has to be at the table. It has to be there helping guide the decisions. And you, above any of us, have been out there on the land and seen exactly what the science is saying, which is saying we need to protect more and get ahead of this. So thank you so much to both of you, and to the rest of our audience. I will just say we're going to be back at 10 o'clock with another session on the northern shores for Lake Superior and Lake Huron, and you'll get to hear from a great array of people who are doing protection and advancing conservation on our Great Lakes. So thanks so much once again to Marie-Ève Marchand and Jean Lemire for spending time with us on the Eye Opener and really helping us see inside how one province is leading on nature. Thank you.
Thank you.